Maya Johnson stepped off the crew bus just after sunrise, her heart fluttering with excitement. The air was cool and still, and a faint orange glow lit up the runway far ahead. She paused for a moment to take it all in. Beyond the fence, jets sat like great metal birds waiting to take flight. She adjusted the strap of her leather briefcase and smoothed down her navy blazer. Her uniform was neat and pressed, her badge shining in the early light. As a safety inspector for the Federal Aviation Administration, Maya had flown into dozens of airports before. But this morning felt different. Today, she would walk into Sunrise Air's VIP terminal. She would be the one checking on the pilots, the crew, and the ground staff. She would hold them to the highest standards of safety. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked forward. The VIP terminal was quiet, except for the low hum of air conditioning and the soft tapping of heels on marble floors. Tall leather chairs lined the walls near large windows, which looked out onto parked planes and moving luggage carts. A uniformed attendant stood behind a sleek desk of dark wood. Maya approached him confidently. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm yet firm. She set her briefcase on the counter and unzipped it, letting him see her inspection documents.
It is.
He nodded and offered a polite smile. "Welcome to Sunrise Air VIP Lounge. May I have your badge, please?" He reached for her FAA credentials. Maya handed them over. She watched as he looked at her badge, then back at her face. There was a brief flicker of curiosity in his eyes, but he returned to his task without comment. He slid her badge back and said, "Please proceed through security on your left. Enjoy the lounge." Maya thanked him and turned toward the security checkpoint. Just then, a tall, broad-shouldered man in pilot stripes stepped into view. Captain David Reynolds wore a crisp white shirt with gold bars on his shoulders. His dark skin contrasted with his white uniform, and his polished shoes clicked on the marble as he walked. He carried a small travel bag in one hand and a steaming cup of coffee in the other. When he saw Maya, he gave a polite nod, but he spoke to the attendant instead. To her, "Is our VIP guest ready for the lounge?" he asked. The attendant glanced at Maya, then at the captain, and said, "Yes, Captain. Right this way," he gestured, toward a side door rather than the inspector's security lane. Captain Reynolds frowned slightly.
Oh, yeah.
He turned to Maya and held out his coffee as if offering a gift.
Ow.
"Would you like a cup?" he asked. Maya felt a tight knot form in her stomach. She held his gaze for a moment, then shook her head. "Thank you, but I'm here on official business," she said. She flashed her badge. Captain's brow lifted in surprise. He paused, then set down his coffee cup. "Oh, I'm sorry," he said softly. He sounded embarrassed, but also curious. "I didn't know you were inspecting today. I thought you were one of our VIP guests. Flight crews often bring guests through here." Maya closed her briefcase calmly. "I'm here to inspect the airline's VIP operations," she explained. She spoke simply, without anger. She wanted to clear the mistake quickly so she could get to work. Captain Reynolds nodded again and gestured toward the security lane. "Right this way," he said, stepping aside. Maya walked past him, her mind already shifting to the tasks ahead. As she moved through the line, she noticed a few of the airline staff whispering to each other. Their heads bent low, and they pointed in her direction. She caught fragments of conversation. "She must be famous," one said. "I've never seen her before," another replied. They watched her with a mix of curiosity and speculation. Maya felt their eyes, but kept her expression neutral. She focused on the guard scanning her documents, then the X-ray machine where her briefcase rolled through. She picked up her belongings at the other end and straightened her shoulders again. Inside the lounge, she took a moment to study the space. The VIP lounge was bright and comfortable. Soft sofas with plush cushions ringed small coffee tables. A buffet table held fresh fruit, pastries, and bottles of water. A sleek bar at the side offered coffee, tea, and soft drinks. Large windows looked out over the tarmac, where planes taxied and took off. Maya walked slowly, taking it all in. She made mental notes of safety signs, emergency exits, and staff positions. Her role required careful observation. She watched as a flight attendant in navy pants and a white shirt checked menus in a folder. She noted a stack of safety brochures on a shelf near the door. Everything seemed orderly, but she planned to double-check each station. She moved to an empty corner of the lounge and opened her inspection notebook. The first item on her list was to confirm that all safety instructions were clearly visible. She jotted down a quick note, then looked for the next item: emergency exits. She walked to a glass door marked exit in bright red letters. She tested the handle, making sure it opened easily, did swinging out smoothly. She recorded that too. Then she paused by a window overlooking Gate 3. A loudspeaker crackled as ground staff guided a jet into position. Baggage carts rolled by, and a fuel truck trundled in the distance. Maya felt a thrill seeing the hive of activity. This was her element. She loved the buzz of the airport, the flow of planes and people, and knowing she played a part in keeping it all safe. Suddenly, Captain Reynolds appeared at the entrance of the lounge, walking toward her. He held his briefcase in one hand and his coffee in the other. His face showed genuine apology and respect. "Inspector Johnson," he said quietly, "I want to apologize for earlier. I should have greeted you properly." His voice was steady and sincere. Maya closed her notebook. "Thank you," she replied. "I understand mistakes happen." She smiled kindly. He glanced around, noticing her badge clipped firmly to her jacket. "I'm here if you need anything," he said, gesturing toward the lounge. "If there's anything I can do to help you complete your inspection, just let me know." Maya thought about accepting his offer. She usually worked alone, but having the captain on her side could smooth the process. She nodded. "I appreciate it," she said. As the morning light grew stronger, Maya felt a sense of purpose settle in her chest. She was here to do a job that mattered. Every check she made, every note she wrote, could help prevent accidents and save lives. She closed her briefcase and rose from her chair. Captain Reynolds fell into step beside her as she walked toward the first inspection point. Together, they left the comfortable lounge behind and stepped into the hum of airport operations. Maya's mind buzzed with questions and observations. She was ready to see how Sunrise Air measured up and to ensure that every passenger, from VIP to coach, could trust them with their safety. Maya moved beside Captain Reynolds through the softly lit corridor that led from the VIP lounge toward the main terminal areas. Her steps were measured and calm, her gaze scanning every detail. The walls bore framed photographs of Sunrise Airs, history-old black and white images of the first propeller planes, crew members in vintage uniforms, and moments of celebration when the airline had won industry awards. Each frame reminded her that safety had to grow with time, that standards must improve as the world changed. They reached a door marked Crew Briefing Room. Through the glass window, Maya could see flight attendants seated in neat rows, listening to an instructor. The instructor pointed to a large whiteboard displaying diagrams of the cabin layout and emergency exits. Maya nodded to herself, then tapped lightly on the door. A young flight attendant looked up and stood. "Inspector Johnson, welcome," she said softly, her voice steady. "We're reviewing our new safety procedures today." The attendant stepped aside, and Maya entered. Captain Reynolds remained by the door. Maya took a seat at the side and opened her notebook. The instructor greeted her with a warm smile and resumed the briefing. Maya listened carefully as the crew practiced verbal commands for evacuations, simulated the use of oxygen masks, and demonstrated how to release life rafts. The attendants moved with confidence, their voices clear and loud enough to carry through the cabin. Maya jotted down notes on timing, on clarity of speech, and on their handling of the safety gear. Every line in her notebook showed small details: the ease with which they unbuckled life vests, the way they checked seat belts, the steps they followed to secure loose items before takeoff. Halfway through, Captain Reynolds cleared his throat and raised a hand. "May I ask a question?" he said, stepping forward. The instructor nodded. "In a real emergency," he asked, "what is the maximum time we allow for a complete evacuation?" The instructor glanced at her notes, then looked back at the crew. "Industry standards say 90 seconds or less," she replied firmly. Maya smiled to herself and added a note. "Crew, aware of time limit, Captain Reynolds nodded in satisfaction. Maya closed her notebook and waited until the session ended. The attendants dismissed themselves quietly and left the room one by one. As the last attendant left, Maya rose and addressed the instructor. "Thank you for the demonstration," she said. "Your team performed well. I noted a few areas for refinement, especially around coordinating with ground staff at the exit doors." The instructor listened attentively as Maya explained specific suggestions, using gentle language that encouraged improvement rather than criticism. Captain Reynolds watched her closely, impressed by her clear, kind approach. They stepped out. Into a wider hallway? Maya paused by a bulletin board displaying crew schedules and safety notices. She scanned the announcements, reminders about fatigue management, new guidelines on passenger medical needs, and an upcoming fire drill exercise. Pointed to a notice about cabin crew rest periods. "This is good," she said to Captain Reynolds, "but I want to verify that the logs match these schedules. Sometimes crews swap shifts at the last minute, and a missing entry could cause gaps." He agreed, and they turned toward the operations office. Inside the operations office, a handful of staff members worked at computers, each screen showing flight plans, weather reports, and crew assignments. A woman with silver-rimmed glasses looked up when Maya entered. "Got Inspector Johnson. Nice to see you again," she said. "Captain Reynolds mentioned you might stop by." Maya nodded and introduced herself. "I need to cross-check the crew rest logs against the schedules." On the bulletin board, she explained. The woman led her to a printer and produced a stack of log sheets. Maya and the operations manager compared the printed times with the posted schedules. Most entries matched, but one afternoon shift showed a discrepancy of 30 minutes. "Circled that entry in red. We'll need a signed note explaining why that shift was changed," she said. The operations manager promised to deliver the correction by the end of the day with that task noted. Maya closed her notebook and followed Captain Reynolds out of the office. They walked down a wider corridor toward the hangar area where sunrise air kept its smaller private jets. The hangar doors were tall and heavy, sliding open on metal tracks. Inside, mechanics wore blue coveralls and moved around the fuselages of two sleek planes. Engine covers were open, and lights glinted off polished metal. Maya could hear the hum of power tools and occasional laughter as mechanics chatted about their weekend plans. One mechanic noticed her badge and called out, "Inspector Johnson, good to see you. Everything looks ready for your inspection." He wiped his hands on a rag and offered to show her the maintenance logs. Maya accepted gratefully and followed him to a small desk set up near the jet. He handed over a binder with several colored tabs. Maya flipped through pages of maintenance records. Oil changes, tire inspections, hydraulic system checks, and more. She checked dates, signatures, and any notes of repair work. Page received a quick but thorough review. She found one entry, where a part replacement was scheduled for June 5th, but had been pushed to June 8th. She marked it with a star and made a note to verify that the old part had been removed and the new one installed on the correct date as she worked. She sensed Captain Reynolds watching her with quiet pride. After she closed the binder, he spoke. "You know, I've flown most of these jets for years, and I've never met an inspector who notices so many small details," he said. Maya smiled. "It's my job," she replied simply. "Safety depends on those small details." They moved deeper into the hangar, where the inspector tested emergency slide deployment for a small executive jet. The slide, packed neatly beside the door, was released into the open air, unfolding smoothly to the ground. Maya and Captain Reynolds watched as the instructor demonstrated how to pull the release handle and guide passengers safely away. The slide's bright yellow color stood out against the gray hangar floor. Maya jotted down the time it took to fully inflate seconds. Ian noted it was within the recommended range. She closed her notebook with a quiet satisfaction. Leaving the hangar, Maya and Reynolds walked across the tarmac toward a waiting shuttle bus. The sun had climbed higher now, and the heat shimmered above the pavement. Ground crews directed the bus with hand signals, and Maya took a moment to observe their routine. They wore high-visibility vests and used clear, simple commands into their radios. She nodded in approval. Captain Reynolds leaned close and spoke in a low voice. "Your presence really changes how people do their work," he said. "Seen more attention to detail this morning than in months." Maya looked at him thoughtfully. "An inspection is a reminder that standards matter every day," she said. Back at the VIP lounge entrance, Maya paused to review her notes. She had completed checks on crew training, operations logs, and maintenance records. Next, she planned to observe aircraft boarding procedures at one of the VIP gates. She took out her phone and sent a quick message to the operations office. "Request permission to observe boarding at Gate 2 in 5 minutes." Almost instantly, she received confirmation. She shared the update with Captain Reynolds, who offered to accompany her. They walked through a glass corridor to Gate 2. A private jet waited, its door extended with a small staircase. 2 attendants stood ready to greet VIP passengers. Entered the boarding area, the attendants straightened up and offered polite bows. Maya nodded in return, then moved to the side and watched as the first guests arrived. A businessman in a tailored suit stepped down, followed by a family carrying small children. Maya observed how the attendants handled each guest, offering a hand to the elderly, helping the children with their bags, and guiding them with clear, gentle directions. She noted the warm smiles and confident gestures. Once boarding was complete, Maya inspected the staircase for stability and handrail security. She tested each step, feeling for any wobble, and inspected the rail for a secure grip. She recorded her findings and gave a thumbs up to the crew. Captain Reynolds, standing beside her, smiled. "Excellent work," he said quietly. As the jet prepared to taxi, Maya felt a sense of accomplishment mixed with relief. She had completed the key parts of her inspection and gathered all the information she needed. Her notes were thorough, her observations clear, and her suggestions practical. Captain Reynolds turned to her. "Thank you, Inspector Johnson," he said sincerely. "Your work today will make a real difference." Maya smiled warmly. "Thank you for your support," she replied. They walked back toward the terminal, their steps steady. Maya felt a quiet joy in knowing that her work, though often unnoticed by passengers, had real impact on safety and on the people who worked behind the scenes. As they reached the lobby, she closed her notebook and prepared to compile her preliminary report. Captain Reynolds held the door open for her. She stepped through, ready for the final stages of her inspection and for the chance to shape a safer future in the skies. ChatGPT said. Maya straightened her jacket as she stepped into the Flight Operations Center. The room buzzed with low voices and electronic beeps. Large screens along one wall showed live flight paths, weather maps, and aircraft statuses. Controllers sat at rows of desks, each focused on radar displays. Maya took in the scene, then turned to Captain Reynolds. "Next, I want to verify our cargo handling procedures," she said. He nodded and led the way toward a side door marked Cargo Loading Zone. They exited into a wide open space under a high ceiling. Stacks of luggage carts and crates waited near a ramp that led up to a waiting passenger jet. Forklift hummed as it lifted a pallet of boxes toward the aircraft's open cargo hold. A team of ground staff in reflective vests and ear protection guided the pallet into position. Maya watched carefully. She noted the clear hand signals and radio calls they used to coordinate. The forklift driver checked his mirror and backed. Slowly, Maya saw that the ground staff used a standard clear distance to stay safe. She jotted a note. Proper distance maintained, clear communication. As the last pallet slid into place, an attendant closed the hatch with a firm but smooth motion. Maya walked over and ran her hand along the edge. "Good seal," she whispered to Captain Reynolds. He smiled. "It keeps everything secure and prevents shifting in flight." Maya paused to check the cargo manifest printed on a clipboard. Hanging nearby, she scanned the list and compared it to the labels on the boxes. Everything matched. They moved back toward the Flight Operations Center. Maya wanted to see how well the ground crew and cabin crew communicated when a flight was delayed. Just as they reached the glass doors, Maya's phone chimed. A message from the operations office read, Flight 61 delayed due to weather. Crew. Arriving shortly for passenger update, Maya turned to the captain. Let's observe how they handle the announcement and passenger care. He nodded and pressed the door release. Inside the terminal, a small crowd had gathered near the departure monitors. A flight attendant in a bright scarf stood beside a microphone station at Gate 5. Maya and Reynolds took positions among waiting passengers but remained quiet observers. The attendant spoke into the microphone with a calm, friendly tone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Sunrise Air cabin. Manager, due to weather conditions at our destination, Flight 612 will be delayed by approximately 1 hour. We apologize for the inconvenience. Please feel free to enjoy refreshments in our lounge, and we will keep you updated every 15 minutes. Maya scanned the faces in the crowd. Some passengers looked annoyed, others simply nodded. A few parents soothed restless children by offering snacks. Maya noted the cabin manager's clear tone, her measured pace, and her polite phrasing. She opened her notebook and wrote, "Delay announcement, calm tone, regular updates promised." The captain whispered, "They trained for this. It shows." After the announcement, the attendant moved among passengers, answering questions and showing them to seating areas. She offered water and snacks from a cart. Maya watched as she knelt beside an elderly man with a cane, speaking softly and guiding him to a comfortable chair. Maya made another note, personal assistance, strong passenger care. She closed her notebook and turned back to Captain Reynolds. They handled that well. No, I want to see how they managed the cockpit briefing for this delay. They slipped back into the operations center, where Captain Reynolds led Maya to a glass-walled room labeled Crew Ready Room. Inside, 2 co-pilots sat reviewing checklists at a small table. They looked up as Maya and the captain entered. One co-pilot, a woman with short hair and calm eyes, greeted Maya. "Inspector Johnson, glad you're here. We're updating our flight plan for the delay." Maya nodded and joined them at the table. She watched as they referred to weather reports on a tablet and adjusted their fuel calculations. She asked, "Have you filed for holding patterns if weather worsens?" The male co-pilot smiled. "Yes, we have 2 options filed. We'll decide on approach based on updated reports." Maya jotted a note. "Alternate holding plans filed, good practice." As the co-pilots finished their briefing, Maya asked about their rest breaks. She saw fatigue management was part of safe operations. The female co-pilot checked her phone and said, "We each have 6 hours off after this duty cycle per FAA rules." Maya recorded, "Rest rules confirmed." She closed her notebook and stood. "Thank you."
Covers my cockpit briefing?
Checks. The co-pilots nodded respectfully. Captain Reynolds gave Maya an approving glance. Leaving the crew ready room, Maya suggested one final check. An emergency response drill with the airport fire team. Captain Reynolds led her through a short outdoor corridor to the fire station. Bright red engines lined the garage. Firefighters in full gear moved around, inspecting hoses and checking water levels. The station commander lowered his helmet visor and offered his hand to Maya. "Inspector Johnson, welcome. We have a drill scheduled in 10 minutes. Maya nodded and asked for details. He explained they would simulate a smoke alert in the cargo hold of a Boeing model. Maya asked if they had updated their protocols since last year. The commander confirmed new sensor thresholds and quicker response times. Maya made a note. Fire drill, parameters, baited faster response. They moved out onto the tarmac. Near a mock fuselage built for training, a small smoke device was set up in a cargo door. Ground staff stood by as the station rolled out an engine. Maya watched the firefighters buckle on gear, check their air packs, and start the engines. Warning siren. When the siren sounded, ground staff sprang into action. They cleared the area and signaled the firefighters forward. The engine drove up, raised its ladder, and aimed its water nozzle at the mock smoke. Maya timed their response, exactly 40 seconds from alarm to water spray. She noted, response within target time. The firefighters then entered the fuselage mock-up to practice rescue. Maya observed their careful movements and clear radio calls. She smiled, impressed by their teamwork. After the drill, the commander gathered his team. Maya thanked him for the demonstration and offered feedback. Your response time is excellent. Consider adding an extra safety zone marker so ground staff maintain a clear perimeter. The commander nodded and agreed to implement the suggestion. Maya felt a warm sense of accomplishment. As she walked back with Captain Reynolds, Maya reflected on the morning. She had seen every major department: lounge operations, crew training, cargo handling, passenger care, cockpit briefing, and emergency response. Each group had shown professional standards and a willingness to improve. Maya closed her notebook and turned to the captain. "I have all the data I need for my report," she said. "Thank you for your guidance and for coordinating these checks." He smiled. "It was my pleasure. Your work today has already made Sunrise Air safer." They reached the VIP lounge entrance again. Maya paused to take in the familiar view: soft sofas, polished floors, and the gentle hum of coffee machines. She thought about how this room had served as the starting point for her inspection and how it would soon welcome passengers. Unaware of the safety checks completed behind the scenes, she tapped her notebook shut and slipped it into her briefcase. Captain Reynolds opened the door for her. Maya stepped inside, feeling a quiet pride. She had fulfilled her mission with thoroughness and kindness. She had corrected small oversights and praised strong practices. Her notes would help Sunrise Air refine their operations and reinforce their commitment to safety. Taking one last look at the lounge, Maya thought of the passengers who would lounge here in comfort, knowing the airline met high standards. She smiled to herself, content that her work would shine through in every safe flight that lifted from these gates. Then she turned and walked away, ready to write her final report and to move on to the next airport, where more journeys awaited and where Maya's careful eye would help keep the skies secure for everyone. Maya and Captain Reynolds moved together through the quiet corridor that led from the VIP lounge toward the heart of Sunrise Air's operations. Maya's notebook was tucked under her arm, pages already filled with observations and notes. They paused outside a glass-walled meeting room, where several senior staff gathered around a conference table. Inside, the airline safety and training managers sat with serious expressions. Maya took a deep breath. It was time to share her findings and propose real improvements. Captain Reynolds knocked lightly on the door before opening it. "Inspector Johnson is here," he announced. Heads turned, and the managers greeted Maya with polite nods. She stepped inside, her posture calm and assured. The room felt warm, the afternoon sun filtering through tall windows. Maya scanned the faces of the team, the head of cabin safety, the maintenance supervisor, and the chief operations officer. Each person wore crisp uniforms or business attire, reflecting their roles. Maya set her briefcase on the table and opened it carefully, taking out her notebook and a few printed sheets. "Thank you all for making time today," Maya began. Her voice was clear and steady. "I've completed my inspection of your VIP operations, crew training, maintenance records, and emergency response drills. Overall, I saw a strong commitment to safety and professionalism at every level." She paused to let the positive start sink in. The managers exchanged pleased looks. Maya continued, "However, I also noted areas where we can improve further." She flipped to a page marked by a small yellow sticky note. "First, I want to address crew communication in the cabin. During the emergency briefings, some radio calls were delayed by a second or two. In a real crisis, those seconds can matter." She looked at the head of cabin safety. "I recommend adding routine radio check drills before each flight. A quick test when crew begin a shift can ensure clear lines and faster response times." Safety manager nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense," he said. "We'll integrate radio checks into our pre-flight routines." Maya smiled and turned to the next point. Next, in the maintenance logs, I found one record where a scheduled hydraulic system replacement was delayed by 3 days. While the team caught up quickly, the gap could pose a risk if any warning signs appear. She addressed the maintenance supervisor. "I suggest a digital alert system. If a scheduled repair is not completed by its due date, an automatic notification should go to both the supervisor and the operations office." The supervisor leaned forward. "I like that idea. We can work with IT to set up alerts in our existing software." Maya jotted a quick note. Captain Reynolds watched as the group embraced each suggestion. Maya moved smoothly to her next observation. I also noticed the fire drill response was excellent, but ground staff occasionally stood too close to the mock fuselage during the exercise. In a real fire, flying debris or water spray could be dangerous. She addressed the operations manager. Let's mark a clear safety perimeter and include that in the training manual. A bright painted line on the tarmac would work well. The operations manager grinned. We'll get that painted by this week. Maya then hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Finally, I want to talk about an issue that affected me personally today. Early this morning, Captain Reynolds and I met at the VIP entrance. I showed my inspector badge, but at first he thought I was a guest. It felt like my role was doubted, perhaps because of my age, my gender, or because I'm a black woman in uniform. I know bias can be unintentional, but small moments like that can undermine confidence and slow down our work. The room was silent. Managers glanced at each other, then back at Maya. She took a steady breath. I propose adding a brief diversity and inclusion session to every annual training for all staff pilots, crew, ground services, and management. It should cover unconscious bias, respect, and the value each person brings, regardless of background. Chief Operations Officer, a seasoned professional with silver hair, spoke up. Maya, that's an important point. Sunrise Air prides itself on unity, but we always have room to grow. I fully support including bias awareness in our training. The other managers nodded in agreement. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. Captain Reynolds placed a hand on her shoulder. Thank you for raising this, he said. Learned a lot myself today. Your professionalism and honesty are exactly what we need. Maya closed her notebook and stood, her shoulders relaxing. I appreciate your openness. My final step will be to compile a full report with timelines for each recommendation. I'll send it by the end of the week. She looked around the table. I'm confident these changes will strengthen safety, improve teamwork, show every employee that their skills and identities are valued. The managers applauded softly. After the meeting, Maya and Captain Reynolds walked down a side hallway. The walls here were lined with framed commendations and awards. Captain Reynolds exhaled. That felt good, he said. You handled those sensitive topics with grace. Maya smiled. Your support made it easier. Change works best when leaders reinforce it. They reached a glass door leading back to the ramp. Maya stopped and looked out at the parked planes, their wings glinting in the afternoon light. I think Sunrise Air is ready for these improvements, she said. The team showed they care about safety and respect. Captain Reynolds nodded. Thanks to you, we'll be better than before. She slid the phone back into her pocket. Before I go, she said, I want to thank you again for your help today. Captain Reynolds smiled warmly. Thank you for guiding us, he replied. If every inspector were like you, the skies would be safer and friendlier. Maya laughed quietly. That's high praise, she said. Then she squared her shoulders.
Ow.
I have flights to catch. They shared a brief nod, and Captain Reynolds watched her walk toward the staff entrance.
Okay.
Maya glanced back once, giving him a final wave. He returned it with a grin. Maya stepped into the staff corridor, badge clipped to her jacket, notebook in hand, ready to tackle the next challenge. She knew her work would ripple outward, improving routines, sharpening safety measures, and touching minds. And perhaps most importantly, reminding everyone that respect and inclusion are as vital as any safety check. As she reached the door, she took a deep breath, feeling energized and hopeful. The day's work had been more than an inspection. It had been a chance to inspire real change, and Maya was proud to be the one to open that door. Maya felt a quiet sense of accomplishment as she stepped onto the crew bus for her next assignment. The warm afternoon sunlight fell across her badge. She glanced down at her notebook, where her own recommendations lay neatly written. A full month had passed since her inspection at Sunrise Air, and she was returning to see how her ideas had taken root. As the bus rumbled toward the VIP terminal, she thought of the radio check drills, the digital maintenance alerts, the safety perimeter markings, and especially the diversity session she had proposed. She wondered how each change would look in real life, When the bus arrived, Captain Reynolds met her by the door. He wore the same crisp uniform, but now moved with an air of pride and purpose. "Inspector Johnson," he said, offering a firm handshake. "Welcome back. I think you'll be pleased with what you see today." Maya smiled and followed him inside. The VIP lounge looked much the same at first glance: soft sofas, polished floors, gentle hum of machines, but something felt different. Staff greeted her with a nod and a warm smile, recognizing her as more than just a guest. First, they paused for a quick radio check. A flight attendant picked up a headset and listened carefully, then spoke. "Radio check, 1-2, testing 1-2. A pilot answered back with equal clarity. Maya noted the crisp response. It had only taken a few lines of dialogue, but it showed how the habit had stuck. No delay, just precise communication. She jotted down "radio check, drill effective," and looked up at the captain. He nodded, clearly pleased. They moved on to the operations office. The digital alert panel glowed on a corner screen, showing green checks next to every scheduled maintenance task. Maya peered at one entry that once had a 3-day delay. Now it had a bright green dot and a note, completed on time. She asked the maintenance supervisor about the new alert system, explained that an automated email now went out 30 minutes before any due task, with follow-up reminders until the work was done. Maya felt a warm satisfaction. "This will reduce risk and keep everyone accountable," she said. The supervisor agreed and thanked her for the suggestion. Next, Maya and Reynolds stepped into the hangar, the fresh yellow line marking the safety. Perimeter around the mock fuselage looked crisp against the gray floor. Ground staff moved with care, stopping well behind the line during a fire drill set to begin later. Maya tested the barrier by stepping to the edge and watching staff hold back. It gave her confidence to know that no one would stand too close if real smoke appeared. She smiled and made a note. "Safety perimeter in place." They paused by the bulletin board in the crew briefing area. New flyer announced a diversity and inclusion workshop scheduled for next Thursday. It featured photos of smiling employees from different backgrounds and a brief description. "Learn how bias affects our work and how respect lifts us all." Maya recognized the layout and the title she had suggested. She asked the head of training how attendance was going. "We already have full sign-ups from every department," the trainer said with a proud smile. "Pilots, attendants, mechanics, ground crew, everyone is joining." Maya felt her chest warm at the thought that people would come together to learn and grow. They moved toward Gate 2, where a private jet waited. Maya watched the boarding process. Attendants helped guests with their bags as before, but now crew members offered respectful greetings, a firm handshake, a clear introduction. "Good morning, I'm Sarah, your flight attendant." Maya nodded at the change, liked seeing how simple words of respect could improve the atmosphere for both staff and passengers. As they walked back through the lounge, Captain Reynolds turned to Maya. "I want you to see the final report we prepared for you," he said. They entered a small meeting room where managers had gathered again. On the table lay printed pages with charts and notes showing improvements, reduced maintenance delays, faster fire response times, clearer radio tests, and strong survey results from employees after an anonymous feedback form. The feedback spoke of pride in their work, a feeling of fairness, and trust in each other. One manager stood and said, "Your recommendations not only made us safer, they made us better as a team." Maya glanced at the charts. The graph showed crew response times improved by 15% since the new drills began. Another chart showed a drop in minor safety incidents. A bar graph showed employee satisfaction rising across all departments. Maya felt a surge of gratitude. "This is wonderful," she said. "I'm proud to see how seriously you took each suggestion." She looked around at the faces, smiling, confident, hopeful. It reminded her why she loved this job, the chance to help people see new possibilities and work together for everyone's benefit. Captain Reynolds cleared his throat. "On behalf of Sunrise Air, I want to invite you to remain after your inspection for a small ceremony," he said. "We'd like to present you with our newest safety award, named in your honor." Maya's eyes widened. She had never received an award for her work. She felt both surprised and deeply moved. The managers had prepared a simple plaque that read, "The Maya Johnson Safety Excellence Award, presented to FAA Inspector Maya Johnson in recognition of her outstanding service and vision for safer skies." Maya accepted the plaque with a humble smile and a slight bow. The group clapped softly as Maya held the award. She felt a tingle of pride and a warmth spreading through her chest. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but soft. "I didn't expect this, but I'm honored. I'm proud to work with such dedicated people." The chief operations officer stepped forward and said, "Your leadership helped us see that safety and respect go hand in hand. You reminded us that small changes can have big effects." Maya nodded. She carefully placed the award in her briefcase, knowing she would display it with honor in her office. After the ceremony, Maya and Captain Reynolds walked back toward the entrance. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The tarmac reflected the light, and distant planes cast long shadows. Maya felt a peaceful joy as she rode the bus back to the airport terminal. She thought of the many airports she would visit, the changes she could help bring, and the people she would meet. Each inspection was a chance to make travel safer and more respectful for everyone's staff and passengers alike. At the terminal door, Maya paused and turned to Captain Reynolds. "Thank you for your partnership," she said. "Today showed me how much we can achieve when we work together." He smiled warmly. "And thank you for guiding us," he replied. "Your work will touch countless lives." Maya nodded, feeling the truth of his words. She stepped into the terminal and found her boarding gate for the flight home. As she waited, she took out the award and looked at it again. It caught the airport lights and gleamed softly. When it was time to board, Maya clipped her badge inside her jacket and carried her briefcase with the plaque inside. As she walked down the jetway, she felt a quiet confidence in her steps. She knew her work mattered and that her ideas could spread across the skies. Settling into her seat, she gazed out the window as the engines began to roar. The plane pushed back, and she felt the gentle tug as it turned toward the runway. As the jet lifted into the sky, Maya closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. She thought of Sunrise Air's first inspection, when she had been mistaken for a guest. She reflected on how that simple moment had led to training, alerts, drills, and a deeper sense of unity. She thought of the plaque now in her luggage, a symbol of teamwork and progress. Above her, clouds drifted by, and the sun dipped below. The horizon. Maya opened her notebook one last time and jotted a few final thoughts. Change begins with a spark. Respect and safety grow together. Every voice matters. She closed the book and reached for her bag. Ahead lay her next destination, another airport in need of attention and care. She smiled, knowing her journey would continue in that with each inspection, she would help make travel safer, fairer, and more welcoming for everyone. And that thought brought her a deep sense of purpose as the plane climbed higher into the evening sky.